This is the MG ZS EV 2022. Now, apart from the obvious visual differences, it's got a larger battery pack, it's got a little bit more power, it's got a little bit more tech inside as well. But importantly, that larger battery pack means more range on top of what was already a pretty efficient EV. That means that we've got the bravery to bring it to Lonavala for a shoot, which from Mumbai is a 110 kilometer one-way trip with a lot of uphill driving. Now, this is a scenario that we see a lot of users actually using their EVs for. Driving it in the city during the day, and maybe on the weekend or maybe early in the morning, they bring it out to a hill station for a little bit of a family drive. Can the updated MG ZS EV fit that role just a little bit better? We're going to find out. Okay, I know what you're thinking. You can always charge your EV on the way up or on the way down, but that feels like it's a little bit besides the point. You're not necessarily going to have to stop to fuel up a regular IC engine car for 30 to 45 minutes, are you? But anyway, for an EV to be more readily accepted by the general public, range always helps. Now, you could argue that an EV is best used as a city car, and you would be right. But for some people, this is going to be their only car. So making a trip like this just a little easier, a little more within reach, is definitely something that's going to add brownie points to any EV's book. In the ZS EV's case, battery capacity has grown to 50.3 kilowatt-hour from the previous car's 44.5 kilowatt-hour. Now, that might not seem like a big increase. In fact, even the claimed range, which is 461 kilometers, which is up from the previous car's 419 kilometers, isn't a very big change. But as you'll find with EVs, that every little bit matters. It could be the difference between getting home and charging your car or needing to call roadside assistance, which, by the way, MG does have via an SOS button right there. Going over some of the changes in the cabin of the facelifted ZS EV, right ahead of you is a crisp digital instrumentation panel that replaces those lovely analog dials, which I'm a little saddened by, but it definitely does a lot to instantly make the ZS EV's cabin feel a lot more modern. What also helps is the larger infotainment screen, which unfortunately has done away with some of those physical controls. But overall, the UI of the infotainment is definitely better. In fact, it's essentially what you find on the Aster, which is a good point. Now, this cabin might be the Aster's cabin, but everything just feels like it's put together a little better. Of course, the standard has always been the very soft touch surfaces like the top of the dash and the face of the dash right here, and that remains. But MG's gone a little bit further and added some stuff in the back as well, with the rear AC vents, the middle seat headrest, and that flip-out center armrest being some of the highlights. Fortunately, it doesn't get the Aster's gimmicky AI assistant, but otherwise has the full suite of connected tech, the 360-degree camera, and advanced driver assistance systems that we've seen to sometimes add value to the driving experience. As for the looks, it borrows a lot from the Aster, but the blanked-out grille certainly makes the new ZS EV stand out. And while the previous ZS EV wasn't a slouch in the performance department, the new one takes it even further. Powers up to 176 PS from 143, and torque remains the same at 280 Newton meters. Now, that comes via a single electric motor that's placed on the front axle, powering the front wheels. And you do feel traction control step in a few times if you get a little too enthusiastic with the throttle in a corner. Now, this is actually where Eco mode helps out. In normal mode, you do feel like you're lacking a little bit of that modulation that you might want right at the top of the pedal. When you're going around slow roundabouts, it does feel like a little tap isn't enough and a slightly stronger tap is just too much. Eco completely smooths that out. Of course, if you do put your foot all the way down, you will definitely appreciate the fact that the ZS EV in our testing was a whole second quicker than what MG claims for the 0 to 100 kmph run. What's also nice is that they really haven't restricted the top speed, so they claim 180 kmph for this car, but obviously you're gonna go through your battery pack with that. A 0 to 100 kmph run in 7.5 seconds is impressive, and not just at the price it's offered. We saw exactly the same figures in all of the drive modes too, with only the KERS mode slightly affecting braking performance. You get better braking with the pure mechanical all-wheel disc brakes. During our testing, we saw energy usage shoot up to 3.3 km per kilowatt hour, meaning if you drove it flat out everywhere, you'd probably get about 165 km on a single charge. But most people aren't going to be doing that. Just to give you a little snapshot of what our usage has been like with the ZS EV, we got the car at 100%. It showed us a range of about 360 odd kilometers, which by our calculations, according to what figures we were getting in our city driving cycle, which is about 7.5 km per kilowatt hour, sounds exactly right. Now, to get those figures, the car was kept in its normal driving mode and driven as any regular owner might drive their car in the city, which is basically keeping up with traffic. Even on the expressway, we made sure that we were keeping up with traffic in the 90 to 100 km per hour range and just essentially not gunning it, but not really tortoising it either. With all our driving around in Mumbai yesterday and the testing, we were down to 55% odd, where we charged it for 30 minutes using a Type 2 25 kilowatt charger, and we got that figure back up to 78%. Now, when we left base this morning to come to Lonavala, that's how much charge we had, and we reached the top of Lonavala, which is quite a bit of a climb, with about 46% charge left. That's just 30% for a 110 odd kilometer journey with all that uphill. That's quite impressive. The ZS EV still charges at a max of 7.4 kilowatt via the supplied charger, so a full charge takes 8.5 to 9 hours using a regular socket at home. While 50 kilowatt DC charging nets you 0 to 80% of the charge in just 60 minutes, the more commonly available 25 kilowatt DC fast chargers should do the same in about 2 hours. To help you get a little more out of your battery, you could switch to Eco mode, which will immediately shoot up your driving range estimates. Now, considering we fell below the 50% charge mark, which is typically when range anxiety starts setting in. I mean, think about your phone. When you fall below 50%, don't you go looking for a charger? But anyway, what Eco mode does is dull throttle response, even though outright performance isn't affected in the least. And it affects the climate control system to essentially lessen the load on the car. Despite being in Eco mode, the ZS EV climbed these hills like a champ. Now, it's still got all that go, you just have to press a little further down on the pedal to get to it. And when you do, chances are you will appreciate that little extra bit of horsepower that they managed to squeeze out of this electric motor. Changes to the drivetrain aside, the MG ZS EV feels as confidence-inspiring to drive as ever, with a well-weighted steering and generally predictable handling, while the ride is flatter than the Aster, thanks to a lower center of gravity, and doesn't inherit that car's tendency to bounce over small irregularities, thus making it a lot more comfortable to drive and be driven in. Now, while the ZS EV might not have paddle shifters to adjust the level of regenerative braking that you can achieve with the car, there is a handy toggle right on the center stack, and you can toggle from between it acting almost like a regular IC engine with just the right amount of engine braking, or you can toggle it up to its highest setting in the KERS menu to get you near one pedal driving, where you only need the brake pedal to come to a complete halt. So the beauty of going up a hill is that you must come down it. And this is really where the regen braking of an EV helps add to your range. So if you're planning a trip that involves a lot of uphill driving, do keep in mind that you will be able to recuperate some of that energy on the way down and actually extend your range. In this particular scenario, we've done about 20 kilometers of downhill driving with a little bit of getting through Lonavala town itself, but we've only used up 10 kilometers of the range according to our distance to empty. Now we have a little over 55 kilometers to go and we've got 93 kilometers of range. Now that might be cutting it a little too close for a lot of people's comfort, but we do have a long downhill section coming up right now, and I think we can harvest a little more energy to get us there with, I'm gonna say, more than 35 kilometers to spare. Let's hope I'm right. Of course, we managed that and a little more, dropping the car back off with 11% charge remaining and well over the predicted 35 kilometer of range to go. Given our energy usage of about 6 km per kilowatt hour in the city, it seems getting over 360 kilometers of range on a single charge is very, very doable, which puts the MG ZS EV in a very niche segment of EVs that can currently achieve such a feat in India. Considering the standard battery warranty of 8 years and 1.5 lakh kilometers with a 5-year unlimited kilometer warranty, the MG ZS EV certainly seems like a great package for all it offers, prices being just about 1 lakh over the previous car when it was first introduced. If you're looking for a do-it-all EV, this new ZS EV just feels a lot more polished than the old car, and that makes it a very good buy.